focusing on bouncing back from global economic lockdown.
Point taken, but we have lost per day 2.4 billion in our economy during the lockdown that we first started, and that went on for many days. Only the economists in this discussion have the crystal balls to, because Farah said, let's see. They can see because they have the economic crystal ball. But before going to them, Siva would have, hi Siva, long time no see. It's always great to see Miti in action. And because Astro Awani has always been for 5 years already at the World Economic Forum, you see them, pitching at the highest level there. However, I want to go to Siva in this way before he presents his slides. So to give context, now that we are pressured in terms of domestic investment, so as a trading nation, of course, we need as much as we can investment and resources to come from the outside. But that depends a lot on how the global economy and the economies of international repute are handling their own struggle with COVID. So what's the strategy? How are we utilizing our best? Even before pandemic, we were under pressure among even our peers like Vietnam to get a lot of investment. So over to you, Siva. Give us a rosy picture, please.
Thank you. Very good morning, Kamarul. It's always a pleasure. Services sector. Okay. For the first 9 months of this year, the figure that I've highlighted there is 94.4 billion, but I have to qualify. This consists of investments in the primary and services sector for the first 6 months and the manufacturing up to 9 months. So what is missing here is the last quarter of investments in the primary and in the services sector, which I think we will be able to release it by end of 2021. Some of the game-changing initiative was also introduced somewhere in June under Penjana initiatives, like the relocation incentives, as well as encouraging our existing companies to reinvest by providing reinvestment allowance for those who've already exhausted the 15-year tax array period. Now, of course, as Ms. Farah mentioned just now, some of these incentives, we hope that we are able to utilize these to attract much more investment. But what is more important is the measures undertaken by MIDA through making it much easier for investors to invest next month. And of course, there will also be a dedicated website to facilitate the inflows of business travelers. Now, currently, the approval that is given is within 3 working days. Yeah? So that is something that we hope will further facilitate the inflows of investment. And of course, other initiatives that the MIDA has initiated is digitalizing the submission of applications.
If I don't ask a follow-up question, and as the only alternative here, I have to be the devil's advocate. It looks rosy. Investment in manufacturing is going to beat 2019, even during the pandemic. That's wow. But Para and the other economists will agree with me that since 1990s, the bulk of our focus of income and salary and work has been in the services sector, for example, no longer in manufacturing. Manufacturing has been decreasing. Another case in point, I know you make the distinction that Vietnam is getting maybe a lower value chain kind of investments compared to Malaysia. But if we look at how Singapore bounced back from the previous pandemic that didn't affect us, like bird flu and everything else, within 2 or 3 years, they're already exporting vaccines, for example, after 2008, 2009. And they also introduced the concept of integrated resort. Stephen, please do not give reaction. I know you're living there in Singapore. I'm making my point. They introduced the concept of integrated resort. Then we see Genting and also Marina Bay Sands, and that also contributed to 1 to 2% of their GDP in the next 2 or 3 years. What are the similar action being enabled not only by Penjana and Budget 2021 from your point of view, your vantage point of looking from MIDA and MITI outwards, that we can institutionalize the same thing, if I can use that term, because even if we look at Pfizer and Moderna, it's already being exclusively signed to the more developed nation market. Pfizer and Moderna has already signed contracts with the United States government. In fact, the funding of hundreds of billions by the United States government into what they are doing for research. Even Dolly Parton donated 1 million for the Moderna thing. And UK has announced that they're going to buy the first few hundred million doses from Moderna also. If we go on that track for higher capacity to look at pharmaceutical and vaccine supply chain, can we really get a chance fighting against the big giants?
Well, Kamarul, you see, we, as I mentioned earlier, okay, let me answer. There are two parts in your question. And the first is with regards to services sector. As I mentioned, the total FDI inflows into Malaysia is very much confined to manufacturing sector. All right. Now that is basically because the manufacturing sector we have liberalized during the what you call Asian financial crisis. Every crisis I would consider as a very good opportunity for us to take action, and then bold action. So that's what we did in 1996, 1997. We went to the cabinet and we told the cabinet we have to open up the manufacturing sector. Today, foreign companies are allowed to hold 100% equity almost in every other subsectors within manufacturing. But it is not the case within the services sector. All right. Now, the services sector, you can't compare with Singapore, yeah, because of the nature of the industry in Malaysia. It is very much, I would say, limited for majority ownership by foreigners. But there are some sectors that we have carved out for foreign direct investment. I give an example. Principal hub is one. Regional distribution center, procurement center, logistics, hotel projects, 4 stars and 5 stars, we allow foreigners to hold 100% equity. So we are targeting the right kind of investment in the services sector. What do you call green technology, for example, we allow foreigners to hold majority, but not a large solar farm, we don't allow majority. So there are some restrictions there. So our hands are a bit tight, in a way for us to attract high level of investment in all sectors of the economy. Until and unless start liberalizing the services sector, then you can see a high level of foreign direct investments in Malaysia when you compare with Indonesia and with Singapore. All right, that's one. But having said that, we are also very targeted in attracting the right kind of companies. Just now you did mention about, let's say, Pfizer or Moderna and whatnot. Now, currently there are 9 vaccine candidates at the what they call phase 3 trials, and we are approaching them, we are talking to them, we want to see whether would they be interested to set up production facilities in Malaysia. As we speak, our officers are actually talking to these companies, so that is ongoing. But at the same time, if you look at some of the companies that we have approved, I give example. We brought in Smith and Nephew, one of the largest medical device company in UK. They have set up a production plant in Penang now. We have also brought in Dexcom. Do you know that Dexcom is one of the largest 500 companies listed in stock exchange in the USA, producing very sophisticated medical device? Yeah. So this is very unique. And of course, Lam Research, for example. Yeah. So I can list some of these companies, but this is the approach that we have been taking, targeting, meeting them, and trying to convince them to invest in Malaysia. The investment may not be as big as you take one big, large company from China, for example, a paper company which may be maybe a 4 billion kind of investment. But it is not the case with this kind of project. It is a very unique project, but very high value added, and may not also provide that many employment opportunities, because it's a very, very unique, very computerized. Okay, we take IKEA for example. IKEA is a regional distribution center which we successfully brought in, and they are now in Selangor. It is not labor intensive, but fully computerized. All right. And another distribution center that we brought in is actually Volkswagen, which is actually based in Johor. They are producing parts and components for 6 of their models for 23 countries, and making Malaysia as their hub. So this is the approach, and I think we will continue to do so. Yeah. So the absolute value is one thing when you compare, but what is more important is to look at the projects that we are bringing in and the approach that we have taken. Thank you.
Siva, let's see whether the economists and international economists like Stephen and Sean will
improve
agree with you.
productivity.
That's a positive yes from you, right, Stephen? That Malaysia will go that way.
Oh, I think so. There's no choice but to do that, to be perfectly honest.
Cool, cool. Siva, we've been hearing President Jokowi himself lobbying Elon Musk for West Java to be producing battery components for electric vehicles and stuff like that. So give us a better than that kind of news as far as going digital, high tech, big data, AI, autonomous driving, whatever it is, Siva.
Well, you see, I do agree. Going digital is the way forward. But I think the greatest challenge here is how do you move our small and medium enterprise, to embrace Industry 4.0. If you're talking about foreign companies, no issue. Each and every company that we are targeting, they must, and in fact, they have Industry 4.0 built in the process. So today, when we talk to any other companies, we ask them, how automated is the process and whatnot. So whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's big data analytics, or whether it is fully automated or robotization, that is the way forward for foreign companies. You just look at B. Brown, for example, just an example. What they were doing 10 years ago and what they're doing now in Penang is totally different. Fully automated, fully digitalized. Yeah. Now, similarly, the problem that we face with Malaysian companies is for them to adapt. Many of these companies are at maybe 2.0, yeah, 2.5, yeah. They are not even at 3 or 3.5, So the greatest challenge is how do you move this industry to embrace industry 4.0? There was in one seminar, somebody was asking me, Siva, what is it in for me to embrace industry 4.0? You know what was my answer? It is your survival. Yeah. So it is not the incentive, we don't have to convince them, in order for them to survive, they have to embrace industry 4.0. And therefore, the government has put in a lot of initiative and a lot of efforts. You would have noticed, a lot of grants, through MBAC, through MIDA and whatnot. So surely, I'm sure, we will be able to convince our industries actually to embrace industry 4.0. I'm quite optimistic. Thank you.
I like how she put it back to me, but never mind. Farah, your say on this. Please take the SME part because taxation, SME, and digitalization. We so believe in education. Can we get tax relief like income tax, or if you spend a lot on your own family's education? For example, a topic for another day. I would like to sum up. Yes, we can see how we're going to bounce back, but if we take what Shan says, we got to really navigate with a new mindset. Maybe look more to the east, and from Bloomberg to Wall Street Journal, they all agree that the pivot is happening to the east in terms of growth. But how do we do that? Siva has asked us to look inwards and look at what we can do. It's time to really make changes like digitalization. Stephen is saying, yes, he has all that Malaysia is doing. Maybe Malaysia and Singapore through our step can look. The only multilateral trade that includes three big giants of Asia, Japan, South Korea, and China in one grouping is only RCEP. I think that's the way to go. Whether it works or not, only the economist has the crystal ball. But the tax master, Farah, is saying it's okay. Government didn't increase any tax and we're going to be okay. So I guess we're going to live with that. Sorry, Tamina, for taking about 10 minutes of your time from the break. But, I have very raging panelists on the ideas. So we have to hear them and we'll see you hopefully in BFF 2021. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you to all the audience out there. Back to you, Tamina.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Kamarul. And not at all. That was such an engaging panel, really insightful discussions as well. And I think what comes up most of all is this. Now, did you all realize that today, November the 18th, is exactly a year on? November the 17th, 2019 was the very first case of COVID-19 that was reported.